everybody, and welcome back. Today, I thought I would do the top, or I guess I should say, my top decks of 2024, seeing that that is the hashtag that is ever so popular right now. It is a very dark and gloomy day here in Southern Ontario. So I have all my lights on. It's going to be probably a little shadowy and strange. There's not really much I can do about that. It's the season. I'm doing things a little bit different than what everybody else is doing. I'm going to do 5 tarot decks and 5 oracles. I've been really trying this year. I was this year it was big for me to try to incorporate more oracle into my readings. I just I have a love-hate relationship with oracles. The number one deck, like the number one type of deck that I move on and get rid of is oracles. I have a really hard time resonating with them. I have a really hard time enjoying them or using them. I am a hardcore tarot girl, and I see the value in oracles and I understand oracles, but to me, they just don't fit into the same box as tarot for me. So I tend to not connect with them and move them on. And that's kind of the way that it's been. However, I wanted this year for it to be different, and it's going to continue into 2025 because I kind of started this mid year where I was just trying to find oracles that resonate with me or oracles that I like, and I have a couple, so I've done okay. And I'm starting to pay attention now to the things that I like about oracles and the things that I don't like about oracles so that I can stop buying them, wasting my money, and moving them on, right? That is my goal. I'm also trying to not just go and grab anything tarot or oracle deck related. I'm trying to be a little bit more picky choosy about what I'm bringing in. I'm trying to identify the holes in my collection and the decks that I need to fill those holes. And I'm kind of trying to purchase more along those lines than just grabbing a deck that I think is beautiful, right? So I've been kind of trying to work on that. So I don't feel like these are in any particular order. Like I'm not rating them from the best to the worst or the most used to the least used. That's not really how I that's not really how I practice. So I'm just gonna start with whatever's on top and we'll go from there. So actually this is it's funny because this deck actually came in early, very early last year. Might even have had it longer than that. I don't know about time frames. I get lost on time frames. I'm gonna say this deck came in January. I might be wrong on that. But this has been a heavy user in my collection. I have the marked backs. I love it. It's awesome. Other than I feel that this artwork is really self-explanatory and you don't need the marked backs. But I do like the design and I like the concept of it. I think it's brilliant. So yeah, I almost pulled this one out the other day. I love it. I love the way that it reads. I love the depth, the history, the ancient culture feeling. This is just such a great deck. And I backed her Cave of Sybil, but because I'm in Canada and Canada Post went on strike and caused, there's just a bunch of issues with all of that, I won't be seeing my deck for a little bit longer, unfortunately, because I really, really wanted to work with it. But I understand why Tara May has decided to do things the way that she is doing things, just to make sure that everybody gets what they need. And at this point, Canada Post isn't accepting any parcels anyways, because they are trying to catch up from them being on strike. So I'm hoping I'm going to see it by the end of January because I'm really, really needing to work with it. Um, I have a whole plan. There's a whole reason why I bought it. And I'm seeing everybody sharing it and I'm just like, ugh, like I want my copy so bad, but I want it to arrive safely, right? So I'm okay. I can wait a little longer. But like these pictures, I don't know, they're so beautiful. I love this deck. Like I said, I almost pulled it out the other day because I was like, I need to work with something that's to this level and to this degree, right? So I don't know, it might stay out after this and it might go and be my main working deck again for a little bit here. But I used the heck out of this deck. I loved it. Loved its readings. Love everything about it. It's so great. And like I said, I can't wait to get her Cave of Sybil. I'm like, ugh, waiting for it. It needs to come. I'm like so excited for it. But yeah, so like this was like I used this for I'm gonna say at least 3 months to 4 months consecutively. It was hard to put it away. It was hard to say goodbye to it. And now that it's back out and I just looked at it, I'm like, ugh, I think this is gonna stay out and I'm gonna work with it again. Another deck that I've been working with quite a bit, and it's because I'm learning it. Obviously, it is the Thoth. So this is my lightly loved Thoth Greenie that I bought secondhand. And yeah, like this deck is amazing. Finally diving into the world of Thoth with the actual Thoth. I obviously have Thoth based decks, but I wanted a real Thoth. And so I have a smaller one of this from the 80s. And then I have this bad boy, which is a third edition from the 1987, I believe. We've got 78, 83, 87, and third edition. So I'm going to say 87. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Oh, wait, no. Hold up, guys. This little book goes to the 80s edition that I have the little cards. And yes, it's a third edition from 1987. It's like the smaller cards, right? This one, however, let me go get its book. All right, so here's its box. I took it out of its box because I didn't want to keep opening and closing it. Like, I want to keep this as mint as possible. So this one is a third edition, 1978. Yeah, this is a special one. Like, super special. So I took the little booklet from the little one and put it in with this because if I'm going to open and flip through things, I'm going to use the 87, not the original 78, right? But yeah, this deck is gorgeous. Nice, big, clear, oracle-sized cards. Gorgeous artwork. This is a stunning deck. And it was just really interesting to get into like Aleister Crowley's work and read about like him and who he was and the way he saw things. Yeah, this is a solid reader. Anybody who's like finding RW to be a little lacking or a little vanilla, it's time for you to get yourself a Thoth and to step into this world because this is a whole different game here. I'm like, look at these pictures. I'm sorry, I'm like I said, I'm like shadowy. But man, oh man, she's a beauty. I think this has been one of like my top purchases of 2024. When I scored this deck, I was dancing. I was ecstatic. It's beautiful. She's got a little bit of a bow going from being used. And I actually was looking at it the other day thinking I was going to put it back into its box because I haven't been going to it as much as I had been. So kind of thinking that I'm just going to put it in its box to keep it nice and straight. But I feel like they're all bowing. So, I mean, it's not even from being in my scarf. But I think it's time to, put it away for right now and to let her chill until I need her again. So this was another really heavy user. This came in at the beginning of the summer. And yeah, I grabbed the last, like when Fulgur Press announced that they were not going to be, that they were in the last amounts of these and they weren't bringing them back. I hurried up and purchased it and got my copy. And this deck is obviously Thoth based, but it is crazy. You get lost in these. I don't even know. I don't want to say they're ink blots because they're obviously not. They're painted. But you get so lost in these images, and I don't know. It's such a different concept. It's such a unique concept. I know a lot of people have a hard time with the big copyrights or like the artist's signature, right? And I get that. They're not in all of them, but they are in some of them. And I can see how, that can be distracting. At first, it did kind of keep catching my eye, but after a while, it just became part of the artwork. And I didn't concentrate on it the way that I did. Like, look how beautiful. Oh, so gorgeous. Like, honestly, an amazing deck. It just brings you into this whole different world of tarot and its meanings and uh the divination aspect of it, and just I don't know, it's crazy, a crazy deck. And I always, whenever I see this is the Emperor card. I always see like hot lips, like sexy lips, like blowing out smoke. It's so funny. You start seeing things in these that you're just like, I don't know. It's really crazy. I don't know how to explain it. And then like these cards, like this one looks like it has an aura. The devil looks like it has like an aura. The way she's drawn it. Yeah. This one's a trip, guys. Like honestly, this is, and it's not like, this isn't a fast read. This is something that you pull a couple, max 3. So I felt like the more cards I pulled with this, the more complicated and the more overwhelmed I became. So I feel like this is like a 1, 2, 3 card pull max. And I feel that like this isn't, this is something you sit with. This is something you spend time contemplating. This isn't a fast read. This isn't, a quick little, like, what's going on, what's happened. This is like, sit with it. Sit with it and see what it's saying. What's really cool is sometimes if you're lucky, let's say like this happened here, you get like this like morphing of colors, right? Which it then becomes just crazy. Like, I don't know. It's crazy deck. I'm so glad I grabbed it when I did. I got one of the last copies, and yeah, great deck. Love it. I read with this for probably at least a couple months, if not all the summer. It takes a while to get to understand it and to know it. It slowly reveals itself to you. So it was definitely something that takes time to develop an understanding and a relationship with. And it was something that I definitely had time to spend on this and invest in and sit with and learn. And I'm so glad I did. Okay, the next deck that I worked with that dominated my readings and my time was the Hush Tarot. This deck here dominated my entire fall season. I worked with it from September right straight through into November. I had a really hard time, like all of these decks, I had a really hard time putting them away. I can't jump from like deck to deck to deck. I have to sit with decks for a while and then I start bonding really deep with them and then I have a really hard time putting them away. So all of these decks that I'm showing you today are decks that I've bonded very deeply with and they pretty much dominated like whatever season I ended up using them in. This was my fall. This was the energy of my fall. This was everything I was looking for. I've had this in my collection for a while, but it just I never carved out the time to use it. I used it a couple times and was like, oh, I don't really get this. Um, but then all of a sudden it just clicked and I can't imagine this deck not being in my collection. I bonded extremely deep with this one, and the Hush Tarot to me is probably one of my like go-to main decks in my collection, and it is such a beautiful fall energy. So this was like, I had a hard time putting this one away. I really honestly did. It's astounding. It's so beautiful. And I know it's one of those decks that people have like a really hard time connecting with or using, but when you do, it's like I feel like I'm bonded to this deck forever. Like cannot imagine it not being in my collection. And last but not least, this dominated after the Hush Tarot. This came in, and I'm still working with this deck right now. This is the one that I've been using now for all of what was left of November, December, and now we're going into January with it. I almost put it away last night, but I I don't know, man. I love MJ's decks, like honestly. And this has such a wonderful jewel toned, rich color palettes. There's something about the gray borders. It's just this is a great deck and I thoroughly love it. I love this deck so much. Um I feel like when you need an MJ deck, you need an MJ deck. Like there's just something about her energy, the way her decks read. Maybe it's just me, but I absolutely love them. And this is an animal based deck, which I have a hard time sometimes really connecting with animal based energy. This deck though, not at all. I love it. I love everything about it. This is the Hay House Mass Market. Um, I have a couple of her indies and a couple of the Hay House ones. I like Hay House's cardstock, and I'll tell you right now, I think Hay House has some of the best smelling decks out there. Like when I open this, the way it smells, oh, I love it. It smells so good. It sounds stupid, but I love the way that their decks smell. But yeah, this is such a beautiful deck. I read with it at night before I go to bed, and it just has this like dreamscape to it, and everything like the art style is just, I don't know. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. This was like kind of an impulsive buy, to tell you the truth. other than, like I said, I do love MJ's decks, so I don't ever hesitate buying her decks. I love them. So when this one was available, I grabbed it. And yeah, I love it. I don't know if I can put it away. Like I said, I almost put it away last night, and then I was like, me, I don't know if I'm done with it yet. So the Guardian Tarot, or the Guardian, sorry, the Guardian of the Night Tarot. Love it. So the funny thing is this was like my beginning of 2024. This was my like this was like my winter spring. This was like my summer deck. This was my fall deck. And then this was my winter deck. So that's kind of how this went. And then obviously the Thoth was in between too, right? The Thoth actually bumped this one out. So this one, it's kind of in between all these here. But yeah, so it's funny that that's how I just showed them to you guys, but that's kind of how my year has gone and how it's progressed. So very interesting, eh? It's cool when you do these videos and you look at it like that, right? All right, and now I'm going to go on to my oracles. All right, so this is my Devas of Creation, or Dewas of Creation, as she explains in the book. This sat out on my personal altar, and I used it every single day up until I took out Samhain, Seasons of the Witch. So this was, I read all year with it. I love this deck very much. It's nature based, it's got planetary, it's got so much happening in it. And this deck, I've just pulled a card every single day. And yeah, it's an amazing deck. So I would sit down, pull the card, read from the book. It would kind of give me like an idea of what's coming for the day. How beautiful this card is. There's so many beautiful cards in this deck. But yeah, like this was an everyday pull for pretty much the entire year. Look how beautiful. Oh, just gorgeous. Yeah, so definitely my most number one used oracle in my collection, and I cannot imagine life without it. Conway created a masterpiece right here. This is such a staple in my practice. This one here, I'm picking as one of my most used oracles of 2024 because this one dominated in my business. So my readings with my clients and my customers and anybody that books, this was like the oracle that came forward. This was the oracle that wanted to be used the most this year. And it just delivered such spectacular readings. I'm still using it. I don't know. It's a great one. Once again, like I said, MJ decks, they're really, really good. And yeah, this one comes out. This one I read for my customers and clients. It's so good. I enjoy it a lot. It matches a lot of things. Its color palette is a good one. But yeah, I use this for so many readings this year in my business. And it's funny because I bought it, didn't use it, moved it on. Then I repurchased it for myself, and it sat for a little bit not being touched, and then all of a sudden it was just like bam, and I grabbed it because I kept looking at it, it kept like calling me, and so I was like, all right, let's use you. And I use it all the time now. I use it so much, and it's just I love it. It's a great oracle. Delivers great messages. There's a lot of stuff that pops out in the imagery that gives you like direction on like an intuitive hit. It's great. So this is my number one used oracle in my business. This was another oracle that I used for quite a while. This is the Egyptian Gods Oracle. Um, the only thing I have to say about this deck is the keywords don't necessarily fit the descriptions that are in the book. So just something to keep in mind. I love my ancient Egyptian stuff, 100%. So it made sense that this was in, you know, in my practice. I read with it quite a bit for quite a few months. This was another one I had a really hard time putting away. And I almost pulled it out the other day too, because it sits on my shelf, and where I have it, it just like stares at me. And I'm like, I know, I'm thinking of you too. But yeah, so mm, it's beautiful. This is a great deck. I've enjoyed its messages quite a bit. It was a little hard to put it into like the everyday mundane, especially if you read the book. You're kind of like, well, how does that fit into my Tuesday? But it's still good. It works for me. I really enjoyed it. I've used the heck out of this deck. Another oracle that I used a lot is the Sacred Symbols, the Indie edition. This is a treasure in my collection. This is not so common. It's a pretty rare one. And yeah, I love it. I love the mass market one, like the newer edition. I have that one too. That one I used a lot as well. But I chose to show the indie edition as opposed to the mass market one that you can get like everywhere right now. This was 2024 was a year of like vintage decks and like older decks for me, honestly. This is an older one. The Thoth Tarot is obviously old. I got my hands on a Crow Magic Tarot that was given to me in a trade that was really old and well loved. I got gifted a beautiful, really nice copy of the Crow's, the Tarot of the Crone that I used but not as much as I was hoping. So I'm maybe in 2025, I might dive into that deck a little bit more. But yeah, this was one that I used and I really enjoyed. But I try to limit my time with it because this is a rare thing, and you'll never get this ever again. So I I try to tread lightly with it. I try not to use it all the time because I don't want anything to happen to it, because like I said, you'll never see this ever again. So I use it very lightly. A lot of the time I go to the mass market of this deck because I would rather wear and tear that one than this one. However, I do really enjoy my readings from this one. And last but not least is the Wild Unknown Archetypes. This deck is pretty new to me. I've only had it for a short amount of time. However, I can't stop turning to it. I can't stop using it. This one and the alchemical one of her stuff, the Wild Unknown Alchemical. These decks are gorgeous. And I've been doing polls with them. I've been sitting with them. I've been using them in spreads. They look great with so many cards and so many different decks. They're amazing. And it's funny because Kim Cran's decks, when they first arrive, I have a really hard time bonding with them. I have an extremely hard time like grasping their concept, fitting them into my practice, and they push me. They push me out of my boundaries, right? And that's what I really like about her stuff. And then all of a sudden one day it'll just be like it'll click and I'm in love with them, right? So like it's really weird. The Wild Unknown Tarot was like that for me. It sat for such a long time in my collection not being touched, and then finally it just clicked, and now I love it. So I continued on purchasing her decks to complete my collection of her work. And actually, if you probably scroll back and look at the videos in around early summer, midsummer, when I got the Wild Unknown Alchemy deck, I actually said that I didn't know if I was going to move it on or not because I was having a hard time finding a way for it to fit into my practice. And I went on this whole spiel about how it might be being moved on. And that's what happens though with her decks is I go through this initial period of disconnect with them, and then all of a sudden I I get it and they click. And it takes me a while, and I don't know why that is, but it is. It's the way that it's the way that it is with her decks for some reason with me. So this one though didn't give me the same problems off the get-go. But the Alchemical did, the Wild Unknown Tarot did, but this one and the Animal Spirits, they didn't give me such a hard time. So I appreciate that. But ugh, I love the artwork. Um, yeah, I don't know. These are great decks, and I think I'm going to focus a majority of my 2025 in learning and really working heavily with all of Kim Cran's stuff, because I feel that, I don't know, I feel like I just want to do that. I want to really get to know and be really comfortable in her world. So it's definitely, I think, where my 2025 is heading. But yeah, so that has been my 2024 in a nutshell. These are the decks that, and I'm not going to put them all out, but these are the decks that were staples. These are the decks that I worked with. And like I said in my practice, like I don't change out decks weekly or daily. I tend to go seasonally, if anything, but I bond, and then I have a really hard time putting them away and moving on to something different. So these were the decks that dominated my 2024, and they were amazing. So I don't know, we'll see what 2025 has in store for me. I'm waiting for my Cave of Sybil, so I have a feeling like that's going to dominate my 2025. I want to dive into the entire collection of Kim Cran's and really get to know that and spend time with that. I'm also on the Kickstarter for the Odyssean Tarot with the Oracle that he's now put with it. I should say the Kickstarter for the Oracle, and I can't remember the name of it. It starts with a D. But I also ordered the Odyssean Tarot along with it because I almost bought myself the Odyssean Tarot for Christmas. And then I saw his Kickstarter. So then I ended up just getting the Oracle and the Tarot together. So I plan on refreshing and diving back into Greek mythology. It was a huge aspect of my teenage years. And I need to kind of refresh my memory, and I want to spend time in it again. So that's already where my 2025 is heading. I have some pretty strong staples coming in. Um, and I believe he's forecasting that Oracle and the Odyssean Tarot I'm going to be getting in around February. Cave of Sybil is literally just waiting for Canada Post to get to its, stuff together and to start accepting new packages into the country. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to my 2025. But I'm going to try to and I say this every time, and we'll see if it actually happens, but I'm going to try to slow my purchases down and just really concentrate on uh, just I'm craving really deep information, really deep bonds, really deep connections, not these fast little quick card pulls, like really sitting with a deck and getting to know it. Um, yeah. So I don't know. Hopefully everybody out there enjoyed your Christmas or your Yule or whatever you celebrate. And I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.